Fans of The Biggest Loser will remember the story of Abby Rike. She joined season 8 of the show after enduring an unspeakable personal tragedy. And while she didn't win the competition, she says it helped give her a new perspective on life.
2 wonderful children, a loving husband. Abby Rike was living her dream. But in October 2006, her husband Rick, daughter Macy, and infant son Caleb were in a car crash. No one survived. For 3 years, Abby used food for comfort. Soon, she ballooned to 247 pounds. Then in 2009, Abby decided she needed to change her life. That change came when she auditioned for season 8 of NBC's The Biggest Loser.
Please welcome to the 700 Club Biggest Loser contestant and author of the new book, Working It Out, Abby Rike. Abby, it's great to have you with us. Welcome.
It's great to be here.
Let me ask you, your book is so inspiring and you're so candid about so many things. Help us, for those who haven't read the book, back up and tell us about what happened to you in 2006, October 13th, I believe it was.
On October 13th, 2006, my husband, my 5-year-old daughter, and my 2.5-week-old son, they were hit head-on in a collision, and there were no survivors.
Unbelievable. I think that's every person's nightmare, not just every parent's nightmare, but every person's nightmare. The emotions that should have and could have brought up in you didn't really hit you for a while immediately, did they?
I think it was one of those things, had someone told me what was going to happen, I would have said, oh, I could have never gotten up from that. Yeah. I could have never survived that. Because I truly believed that, because the only thing that really mattered to me was my family. Yeah. And I think that's what makes it so real, sharing the journey and sharing about it, is because I'm no different than anyone else. Yeah. God really is that big when we allow him to be.
How did you finally cope with the tragedy? I mean, initially I'm sure it was a shock just to accept that this was reality. How did you finally cope with it?
I think it was one of those things that for so long I tried to handle it in my own strength. Yeah. I went back to teaching. I was still on maternity leave. I went back and finished out the school year, coached our debate kids.
Stayed busy.
I did. I just stayed busy. Then I got my master's degree, and so I just thought I'll just stay as busy as possible. And then it was one of those things where you can't do it in your own strength. And it wasn't until, I say, on February the 13th, 2009, that's when I finally said, I can't do it in my own strength anymore.
What had happened to you over those 3 years? You'd stayed busy. You were, in many ways, running from the pain of all of that.
I didn't know what to do with myself, because all the roles that I cherished were no longer. Yeah. And so, because Rick and I, we liked each other. We were a crazy couple. And so everything that I loved, everything I ever wanted to be, I felt like they made me the person I liked myself.
It's almost like your identity gets wiped out in a sense.
Yes. Yeah. And so there came that point that this is where I am now. At this very moment, I'm 37, I'm single, and while life will never be as good as it was October 12, 2006, I never dreamt that it would be this good. Yeah. And so I think that it is such a testimony that you can know joy despite hideous circumstance.
Yeah. When did the weight become an issue for you?
I'd been overweight my whole life. I'd always been a heavy girl, but it never impacted. I wasn't one of those people that thought, I don't like myself or anything like that. It wasn't until that, it was about at the 2-year mark after the wreck, or 2.5-year mark, I literally was not taking care of myself at all. Yeah. It became existence, and so I was eating so poorly, and so I'd put on probably 15 or 20 more pounds, which put me at about the 250-pound mark, and I'm 5'4", and so, but for the first time, my weight really weighed me down, and I thought, I can't feel like this. This is miserable.
I need a new me. Yeah. So what made you decide to sign up for The Biggest Loser? I mean, I have such admiration. I watch people do that, and I think, wow, that takes courage. What made you decide to do it?
Everything led me to be on this crazy television show, and I never wanted to be on TV. I didn't want to be on TV. I say that I was desperate. I was so desperate to feel better. I was willing to stand on national television in a sports bra and spandex pants.
Yeah. You go, girl. I mean, but it's hard. Oh my goodness, I watch what you go through. Tell me about being on the ranch and what that experience was like.
It's beyond anything you can comprehend, because as an overweight person, you've never worked out to the extent that you do on the ranch. But it's one of those things that you get to redefine the truths about yourself. Yeah. So people that are overweight sitting at home, you can redefine what you're able and capable of doing. And that was huge for me.
Were there times along the way where you just wanted to pack your bags and run?
Oh, up until the irony of it is, whenever I went home on week 7, I was finally ready to stay. Yeah. I was finally okay with it. And that was the week that I ended up going home.
Tell me about the role that your faith played in that. When you talk about finding yourself and finding out about what makes you tick, for those of us that are believers, our faith is very wrapped up in that. How did your faith play a role in your life?
I don't know how. I would have never functioned without my faith. And so I think at that 2.5-year point, I finally decided this is hopeless. This is a hopeless life right now. But there's a lot of beauty when you get to that place, because if it seems possible in your own mind, it doesn't really require faith.
That's true. That's true.
And I finally had to say, I can't do it. As strong as I think I try to pretend to be, I'm failing miserably. Yeah. And when I truly finally said, I can't do it, God became everything. He'd always been that. It's just I got to know him in a way more authentic way.
In the book, you devote the last few pages to letters from your husband and to your husband that you all exchanged before he died. Talk a little bit about that.
We just had the most wonderful, incredible marriage and relationship and courtship. And there was this fear whenever when I was approached about doing the book, to be exposed all over again. Yeah. But I thought, no one is going to believe that our relationship was that good. People are going to think, oh, the mind just softens and whatever. And so it was so important that I think you need to know how great my life was so that you can understand, yes, the loss was that devastating, but look at the beauty that God made from something so hideous. Yeah. Because people hurt. It doesn't come wrapped up in the package that mine did. But there are people struggling and hurting, and I think that's the kind of universality of my story, is that you can feel like it is rock bottom and horrible, but you can know joy again.
There is sunlight.
There is, as hopeless as it may seem at times.
Well, Abby, your story is remarkable, and you share it with great candor and sensitivity. It's called Working It Out. That's the name for a book, A Journey of Love, Loss, and Hope. And you want to read this. We have more with Abby Rike in a web-only feature called In the Green Room, and you can watch that by going to cbn.com. Get a hold of her book. It's available nationwide. Abby, thank you so much for being with us. It's great to have you here. God bless you. Great story.
Thank you.
Encouraging.